When we begin to understand biblical prophecy, what's about to happen next is going to affect the whole planet Earth. We lost our land, our culture, and our identity. There is a great awakening amongst the scattered tribes, and now we must return to the covenant of our forefathers. The Father chose out of all nations the nation of Israel. Okay, shalom, shalom, everybody. All right. I want to thank you once again for inviting me into your homes. All right. In your living rooms and your private areas. I want to thank you once again for joining your brother Kasada as we pick up from where we left off yesterday. All right. I want to sincerely apologize for the distractions that I had yesterday. All right, I had to actually bring that video down on Babylon, the whore that sits upon many waters, part 3, is because I want to make sure whenever I'm doing the Father's work, the quality must be correct. All right, it must be correct. I can't have any technical difficulties. Everything has to be unblemished. All right, no blemishes. We all know the history of whenever you're making an offering to the Father, if there's any blemishes to the offering, the Father won't accept, all right, the offering. And so when I do this ministry here, I want to make sure that I always give my very best. And I believe in return, the Father will say, listen, Kasad, a faithful and loyal son are you. You know what? I now find your offering acceptable and everything is good. All right. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Men Going God's Way. All right. Men Going God's Way. MGGW. MGGW. And you can find them also on YouTube. A very good brother by the name of Elder Gabbard, and he has a nice, very well-educated brother by the name of Ricky, and they're running a very nice YouTube podcast. Once I give the thumbs up on someone, it's accredited. All right, you can bet your bottom dollar that Men Going God's Way is an authentic, true podcast that is really looking to uplift the people and bring us to a better understanding of Torah. So again, check out Men Going God's Way, MGGW. Type that into your search engine, and there's a host of videos there that I believe you will find very interested in. Okay, Mr. McCall, let's go ahead and do the Father's work here. All right. The title, of tonight's class is called Babylon, the whore that sits upon many waters, part 3. And what we're going to first do is go and do the Father's prayer, all right, which is the book of Matthew, the book of Yahuah, the 6th chapter, verse 9. Abinu Shabbat Shamayim, Yit Kodash Shemka, O Yit Barak Malkutka, Retsunka Yahiyeh Ishui, Ba Shamayim, U Ba Aretz, Ut at ain latminu tamadit, umakul lanu kata'atenu, ka'asher anaknu, mukhalim, u al tabi ainu layude, nasayon, u shar ranu makar ra. All esteem belongs to the Father through his Son Yahushua Ha'Mashiach. And Father, we thank you for sending all of your great messengers, your prophets, always telling the nation of Israel it is very important for us to return to the covenant that was made at Mount Sinai in order to have this divine relationship with him. So we're going to do it in English. Our Father which art in heaven, set apart be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Father, we pray that you give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not, Father, into temptation, but deliver us, Father, from all that is evil. For thine is the kingdom, and all esteem belongs to the Father. And we thank you for sending your Son, once again, Yahushua HaMashiach, who was and is that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Israel. And once again, brothers and sisters, we want to thank our good sister Sharon for coming in. She's a strong supporter, and she really, keeps the ball rolling here at Awakening Ministries. All right, I'll always respect and see her do her thing on Facebook, as she also is out here trying to uplift the people on her end. All right, so Mishpachah, we're going to also do the prayer the way that I learned it back in 92. All right, I still find this interesting. All right, I know there's a lot of controversy behind this form or style of praying, but nevertheless, all right, we're going to go ahead and do it this way because, like I always say, there is no voice recordings of how our forefathers actually spoke, but we do know with understanding Shemitic languages, we can pretty much come up with a pretty good idea on how they actually prayed. But here we go. Abanawa Shabbat Shamayim, Kodash Haya Shamkar, Yahuah Malakwavka Ba'a Ratazaka, Haya Aisha Ba'a Ratazak, Hawa Haya Bashamayim, Nathan Lanawa, Lakam Kal Yawum, Wasalak Lanawa, Kawab Wathinawa, Kastalak Lanawa, Kawab Yahuah, Wanawa, Wala'a, Thabaya Anawa, Banasayuan, Abal, Hawashayanawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Walahala, Wahatha, Paharath, Lahai Walamyam, all again. Everything belongs to the Father through his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. And with that, we always say, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. So, Mishpachah, if you haven't done it yet, please take your pointer finger, all right? Take your pointer finger and hit the like button, all right? Hit the like button. Even if you hit the disapproval button, all right? You don't approve it, hit that. That's also good, all right? We're trying to create an algorithm here to try to bring people to this website here called Awakening Ministries by your brother Kasada Bar. And if you find something that you disagree with, when you hit the dislike button, only thing that you would have to do is simply type in, respectfully now, why you disagree, the number of the slide, and I'll try to get back to you at my earliest convenience. See, that's how easy it is to work with me. Even if you have any issues with me, listen, no problem. Show me the slide number. Let's talk about it, and let's try to make the necessary corrections if possible. So once again, Mishpachah, the title of tonight's class is called The Whore That Sits on Many Waters, all right? The Whore That Sits on Many Waters. So let's go ahead and do what we do. Let's go to our very first slide, all right? This is part 3. And once again, I want to say peace and blessings to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Now, as we continue to explore every possibility, which is important, every possibility to who the whore is in Revelation, the 17th chapter. So let's recap on who this treacherous woman might be, all right? We should all be open to some suggestions here, all right? We're dealing with some very old writings. We're dealing with translations. So I would like to hear from you that are watching who you might believe who the whore is that sits upon many waters. And I'm going to share with you now through my investigation what I've come across. Is it Jerusalem? Because some say it's Jerusalem, which is the general consensus amongst first century believers and hyper-preterists. Because you have preterists and you have hyper-preterists. Hyper-preterists believe that everything, once again, came to its conclusion, its end, its apex in 70 AD, where you have some preterists who believe that not every single thing came to an end in 70 AD, but once again, some do. Some say it's Rome, the fourth beast that is mentioned in the book of Daniel, which is also a first century idea. Is it the Roman Catholic Church? Now, if a person wants to or wishes to think beyond 70 AD in order to make sure the Bible stays relevant, that's the thing. Making sure whatever doctrine you choose to follow, is everybody making the Bible relevant for today? I'm a strong advocate, component in believing that we should make sure that the Bible stays relevant. There's not a cap on the Bible. Without beginning and without end is how we should be interpreting and understanding the Alpha and the Omega, which are Greek letters. The Aleph and the Tav, it simply means without beginning and without end. So, once again, some believe that it's the Roman Catholic Church, and if a person wishes to think beyond 70 AD in order to make sure that the Bible stays relevant to our present day and time. And I believe that that is crucial with us living in the times that we're living in, that we make sure that the Bible stays relevant even to this very day. Now, I talked about recapping, all right? I'm not going to do a whole bunch of recapping. I will really pray that those of you that are watching tonight, that you're keeping up what's going on here, and that you watch the prelude or the preface to this story here that I'm going about, and you also watch 1 and 2, because once again, this is part 3, and I want to make sure that everybody stays abreast of what's going on. And like I have here, okay, I actually jumped ahead of myself here a little bit. But what I wanted to do, Mishpachah, is have everybody pay very close attention to this map here, all right? This map here shows a picture of the controlling territories of Rome during the early 1st century. So everything that you see here in red, this was the known world at the time. Meaning now that everything that you see in red belongs to Rome. Once again, everything that you see here in red belongs to Rome. And Rome reached the height or the pinnacle of her dominion, her regime, in 117 AD. Again, these are all of the controlling areas of who? Rome during the 1st century. So what I find interesting with this, Mishpachah, I'm only going to touch on it and I'll elaborate on it in my next video. What you see here is a copy of what America has done. Meaning now is that America has ports. America has U.S. embassies all over the world. But pay very close attention to this map. And if the map is not clear for you, only thing that you would have to do is Google Rome during 117 AD, and it would show you now all of these territories that was under Rome's control in 117 AD, and Jerusalem was one of those countries that was under Roman authority even during the time of the Mashiach's ministry. Jerusalem was being occupied by the Romans. All right, that's very important. Let's move on. Mishmachah, let's take a look at Revelation 17 and 2. But better yet, let's do this. Let's take a look at Revelation 17 and 1. But we just want to read it. We just want to read it because I want to make sure that everybody is paying very close attention. And I want to take my time with this lesson. Kassad, how long is it going to take? It's going to take however long it takes because I want to make sure that the information that I'm sharing is as thorough as possible. So, when we look at Revelation, the 17th chapter, verse 1, this is just a quick recap. It says, "And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, I will show unto thee the judgment." All right. So that should be the first word or the first word of interest that sparks your interest. "I will show you the judgment of the notorious," or in some writings they have the great whore, and this great whore sits upon many waters. So the first thing that should come to mind when it talks about judgment and it talks about great prostitute or notorious prostitute, and the fact that this great whore, this woman who's associated with the beast, is sitting on many waters. So the first thing that should come to mind is commerce, international and local trade, consumer buying, banking, and financing. When it talks about who is seated on many waters, because whoever is seated on these many waters, and we know that the waters now represents kings, people, and nations, but also now seated means that someone now is in control of the peoples, the kingdoms, and the nations. And the waters now literally mean waters at some point in reading this story. As long as we keep it in context, these waters again represents commerce, international and local trade, consumer buying, banking, and financing. And this woman now, who is seated now in this seat of judgment, is controlling all of that. But wait a minute. I just showed you in slide number 5, during the first century, when John the Revelator is on the island of Patmos, Rome was in power. Rome. So if Rome was in power, then it was Rome now who was seated in this position of power, controlling the people, the nations, and the other kings, and also controlling the waterways. The waterways on how things come in and how things come out, meaning now import and export. Now, verse 2 says, "The kings of the earth committed sexual immorality with her," the prostitute, "and those who lived on the earth became drunk on the wine of her sexual immorality." Now, what does that mean? The nations of the earth, the kings of the earth, and that's what the word, through my investigation has brought me to the conclusion that the kings of the earth are the world kingdoms, the presidents, the prime ministers, the dictators, and kings, etc. So these people now became drunk. These people became rich through the fornication, through the idolatry, through the lies, through the politics of this woman that is sitting upon many waters. That's not a description of Jerusalem. That is not a description of Israel. This is a description of the fourth beast that is talked about in the book of Daniel. Once again, if anybody have any questions about anything that I'm saying, follow the slide, leave a comment, and let's talk about it like men and women. Because I believe that we need to pay very close attention to what's going on. Because the adversary is now at the door. These next 4 years is going to be extremely important. And the way that the world is going today is going to be the way things will be from here until this thing comes to a climax. Because what happened during Biden's regime, his reign, during his presidency, it came to an end. We have a new AKA commander-in-chief in the office, and he's going to turn things upside down. And if you're not tied in very tight with this, you will get lost in the shuffle. So let's read on. Let's read on. I don't want to hold you here long tonight. Let's read on. Now, let me back up here a little bit. I think I missed a slide here. Yeah. So, question. Who were the kings of the earth during the first century? Pay very close attention to what I'm asking. Who were the kings of the earth during the first century? Now watch this now. And did those kings from the first century, did they morph into the kings we have today? I believe that that is a very important question. Right, my sister Sharon, she says, Zion, which is Israel, is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as lodged in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. You hit the nail right on the head. Right on the head. Because during the first century, Jerusalem was being occupied illegally by the Romans. During the first century, Israel was not a superpower. Rome was a superpower. The last time Israel was a superpower and was controlling all of the chess players on the chess table was during the time of King Solomon. That was the time when Israel had shalom. Solomon, shalom, peace. That was the last time. After Solomon died, this is when we have the split between northern and southern kingdom. Rehoboam, meaning now the southern kingdom. Jeroboam, meaning now northern kingdom. So Israel has never operated as an independent nation. Excuse me. Oh, the cold going on here. Excuse me. Israel never operated as an independent nation. Afterwards, when Israel came out of the Babylonian captivity, they are now operating under the Medo-Persian Empire. So they still can't do what they want to do. They are still operating and doing what they need to do now by the orders of King Cyrus. So that is a very good example that my sister brought out. Sharon on Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard. So again, who were the kings of the earth during the first century, and did they morph into the kings we have today? Now, during the first century, The primary kings of the earth were the Roman emperors. As the Roman Empire dominated most of the known world at that time, with rulers like Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian being prominent figures throughout the century. Now, there are key points about the first century rulers. Roman Empire's dominance. The Roman Empire held the most significant power during the first century. Why? It's because they controlled import and export, commerce, international and local trade, consumer buying, banking, and financing. Rome during the first century, they were the AKA big dogs that were running the table, not Jerusalem. So the Roman Empire held the most significant power during the first century, effectively making the Roman Empire the most prominent king of the earth at the time. So if you wanted to be rich, if you wanted to be successful, what you needed to do now was to drink the wine, or I just say drink the Kool-Aid. So you had to drink the wine, get along with the Romans in order to be successful. And this wine is actually politics. 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 That's the only way that you can make it. In that political system, those politics now are still operating here today. February the 3rd, 2025 is still politics. But let's read on. Varying empires, emperors. Depending on the specific time period within the first century, different emperors would be considered the primary ruler. Other regional rulers, watch this now, while the Roman Empire held the most significant power, other smaller kingdoms and rulers existed across different regions of the world. And if they wanted to now be successful, they had to comply with the rules and regulations of Rome. I personally believe that America is an extension of Rome. America is an extension of Rome, and the same political games, the same wine that will make another nation drunk, is the same footprints that America is following, which was embedded by the Romans. So this wine is politics. Let's read on. Now, let's go to the next slide here. Based upon everything that we have been sharing here so far, all right, let's look at Isaiah, the 23rd chapter, verses 13 to 18, all right? Isaiah, the 23rd chapter, verses 13 to 18. I have two versions up here. I have the NASB version and the CSB version. If you want to read the King James version, there is no harm, no foul, all right? Everything is still kosher. Look at the land of the Chaldeans, all right? Now, the Chaldeans is a code word for Babylon. Babylon. Now, I have shared before that there are a lot of code words, aliases, epithets for the word Babylon, even for the word Rome. That is Babylon itself, Chaldea, Nineveh, the blood city, the idolatrous city, the great whore, and the beast. It is all pertaining to, through its different aliases that it's been going through, it is still all the same people at the end. And if you follow along with me, I will be able to show that in its entirety by the time we're finished with the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. But let's read on. Now, behold, the land of the Chaldeans, this is a people that did not exist. Assyria allotted it for desert creatures that erected their siege towers. They stripped its palaces. They made it a ruin. Now, anybody that is familiar with the writings of Revelation, the 18th chapter, you're going to begin to see the same language being used there. So it behooves me, when I read the New Testament, especially the book of Revelation, and we begin to look at the writings in Isaiah and in Jeremiah, it is the exact same verbiage that's being used at the latter end describing a nation. Meaning now is that these prophecies are cyclical. Some don't believe that it is. And I say, listen, if that's what you believe, fine. But I know better. These plagues, this Babylonian system, the spirit of Babylon is still operating today. And it has been operating for hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of years. This spirit of Babylon has been operating based upon the definition of the word Babylon. And we're going to show all of that here prayerfully tonight. And again, I know it's late. I'm not going to take up a whole lot of your time here. So let's keep the ball rolling. Verse 14. Well, ships of Tarshish, because your fortress is destroyed. Keeping it in context, who are we talking about? Who are we talking about? We're still talking about Babylon. But look at all of these code words that we see being used here. Right, my sister said the key words, they have cast lots for my people. They have given a boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. It is very important for us to learn how to put the pieces of the puzzle together and be able to come at some point and say, listen, this seems like deja vu. It's the same story happening over again, but the characters might be different. But the scenery, the background is the same. You're in Babylon all over again. Nothing has changed. It's just another commander-in-chief sitting in office. And what's happening now is that when the commanders of chiefs now, when they take their positions now, the situations get harder and harder and harder for the people. Meaning this, when we truly understand the book of Daniel, we have the head of gold. Gold is a very precious metal, more precious than silver. But gold now is a very soft metal, but it's more expensive than silver. But after the golden era, or after Nebuchadnezzar, we have the bear, or we have the silver. The silver is the Medo-Persian Empire. But watch this now. It goes from gold to silver. But silver is a harder metal than gold. So things are beginning to toughen for the nation of Israel as they go through these different captivities, because we collectively as a people aren't learning our lessons. Then after the silver, you have what? Another metal, bronze. Bronze is less expensive, but it's a harder metal. So now we have Alexander the Freak into play. And then now after that, we have another metal that comes into play, which is less expensive than bronze or brass. We have now iron. Iron is tougher than gold, silver, and brass. And I believe that we are living in that last hard metal, meaning now is that this particular captivity, this particular regime that we're living in is harder than all of the previous metals that we were under as a people. Just do the math. But let's read on. Verse 15, on that day Tyre will be forgotten for 70 years, the lifespan of one king. At the end of 70 years, what the song says about the prostitute will happen to Tyre. I'm here to share with you again that the word Tyre is another epithet or alias for Babylon. And Babylon, meaning now that government system that came into play around 605 BC with Nebuchadnezzar, she was called a prostitute. But we have the word prostitute also being used in Revelation, the 17th chapter, verse 1, and is making mention now that that title was given to now every single metal in the book of Daniel. They were all regarded as prostitutes. Let's prove it. Take your harp, wander around the city, which is Babylon, you forgotten prostitute. Pluck the strings skillfully, sing many songs that you may be remembered. Sounds familiar? The book of Revelation, the 18th chapter. Let's read on. It will come about at the end of 70 years that the sovereign will visit Tyre, which is Babylon. Then she shall go back to her prostitute's wages and commit prostitutions with all the kingdoms on the face of the earth. So what are we talking about now, this reemergence of Babylon? You was a prostitute from the beginning, and you will be a prostitute now from the end. You can't see what's going on here. But yet, there are some people that teach that the Bible prophecies are not cyclical. But what do we do here with verse 17? It will come about at the end of 70 years that the sovereign will visit Tyre. Then she will go back to her prostitute wages and commit prostitutions with all the kingdoms on the face of the earth. Her profit and her prostitute's wages will be sacred to the sovereign. So everything that she has taken unlawfully, it will be restored back to the Father. The Babylon from the beginning to the Babylon to the end will vomit up everything that she has stolen, and will be given to the saints that follow Torah. Let's read that. Her prophet and her prostitute's wages will be sacred to the sovereign. It will not be stored up or hoarded, but her profit will become sufficient food and magnificent attire for those who dwell in the presence of the sovereign. Let's read it from the CSB version. But her profits and wages will be dedicated to the sovereign. They will not be stored or saved, for her profit will go to those who live in the sovereign's presence to provide them with ample food and sacred clothing. Me personally, I don't believe that this system that we're living in today we will never see reparations. I personally don't believe that. And if we were to receive reparations, it would never equal the amounts in value based upon what we've gone through over the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You can't repay us back. This is the reason why this system has to fall. All kingdoms fall. And this one here is on her last leg. Guarantee you it. When we begin to understand Bible prophecy. But let's move on. We're almost done here. Let's move on. Now, is there more to Isaiah the 27th chapter after reading it in context? Again, is there more to Isaiah the 27th chapter after reading it in context? I should have put it in context. Okay, so I'm going to be reading from Dr. W.H.P. Fonts from Brown University. Did Ezekiel use Tyre as a synonym for Babylon? I just read in Isaiah the 27th chapter that he did. But let's read some writings that we have here from this guy, Dr. W.H.P. Fonts from Brown University. Did Ezekiel use Tyre as a synonym for Babylon? It has been long noticed that Ezekiel says nothing derogatory of Babylon. And while announcing disasters for other peoples, never threatens Babylon. Why? Why? It has generally been supposed that his silence was due to wise discretion of Ezekiel, who thought himself of much more value to his people alive than dead, and therefore did not invite an untimely end by threatening his masters. Remember, being wise as a serpent and harmless as the dove. Ezekiel thought himself to be more worthy to his people alive and dead, and therefore did not invite untimely end by threatening his masters. Have you considered that? The prophets of old and the disciples had to speak in codes. Because if you were to outright speak against those governments during that time, it meant immediate destruction. So they had to talk in codes. So did Ezekiel use Tyre as a synonym for Babylon? And the answer is yes. Did Isaiah talk in codes? Yes. Did the Mashiach speak in parables? Yes. Sometimes you can't be direct. And those that have an ear, let him hear. He and she will be able to decipher the cryptic language that is being used in order to move successfully now, in order to get the message across to the people. Okay, we got a couple of comments here. Let me look at some of what's going on here, all right? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All praises to the Father. I'm glad that everybody is following along. Random YouTube, mid-bar number 62426. Okay, hallelujah. Let's keep the ball rolling. Those of you that are listening online, hit that like button so we can bring up some algorithm here so that we can bring more people to this lesson here tonight. I believe that it's going to be very inspirational. And hang on, all right? I know it's late, but hang on. I have a very powerful video I believe you will like to see, all right? I've done a whole lot of homework here, and I believe that the information that I'm giving you guys here tonight is accurate. I have a video for you to watch, so just hold on just a little while longer. Now, on the other hand, Ezekiel devotes 3 long chapters, which is chapters 26 to 28, to a description of Tyre and her commerce and a prediction of her approaching downfall. All right. So commerce, once again, is very, very important, because when we begin to talk about commerce, Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greeks and the Romans, they all dealt with import and export, which means commerce, international and local trade, consumer buying, banking, and financing. This is what we're talking about. And once again, Israel during the first century did not have that type of authority. They were under siege under the Romans. So let's read on. Other peoples of similar insignificance like Moab, Ammon, and Philistia are disposed of in similar fashion in a few verses. Equally surprising is that great power and influence are ascribed to the prince of Tyre. At least he is represented as thinking of himself in terms of an estimate out of all proportion to the actual historical place of Tyre in the world of Ezekiel's day. Further, he is associated with Eden. Okay, Tyre now, with Eden, the garden of the Father or God, which was thought of as having been located in Babylon, and he is spoken of as a king, a term elsewhere applied by Ezekiel only to the rulers. Now, let's keep on reading here. I want to make sure that I keep everything going here. Of Babylon and Egypt. Now, Mr. Shoroff would explain all these things by the theory that Ezekiel is in reality talking of Babylon all the time and using Tyre as a camouflage of his real theme. Tyre commercially represented Babylon, but Babylon found itself without a satisfactory share of the profits, which she was resolved to possess for herself alone. This will explain the readiness with which Ezekiel used the symbol of the good ship Tyre as representing the whole commercial structure of the Babylonians, and how in prophesying from his residence upon the Shibar waterway, the obviously impending doom of the city of Tyre, he was able at that same time to prophesy the approaching doom of Babylon herself. So when these prophets was going out doing their ministries here now, they had to use discretion. They couldn't be blatant and say the things that they wanted to say, so they had to talk in cryptic language. And we should all be able to see that when we see now what happened with John the Baptist. when he made that bold step and he spoke out against Herod taking his brother's wife. And he was beheaded for that. Now, what do you think would have happened if John the Baptist used a little bit more discretion? He could have ridiculed and explained how that was a bad thing to take your brother's wife. But he could have used cryptic language, and those that had an ear to hear would have understood that John the Baptist was actually talking about that injustice that he did by taking his brother's wife. So this also lets us know that marriage was always sacred. This is another lesson. But remember, marriages were always sacred. So let's move on. This is from J.M. Powell Smith, the University of Chicago. Now, in support of this interpretation, Mr. Yashra'al cites the fact that the picture of the commerce of Tyre contains imports, but no exports, and that the list of imports is only partial and coincides with the materials that went into the making of the temple and its equipment. The ship Tyre is a symbol of Chaldea. Her cargo is a symbol of the institutions of the priesthood and priestdom of Judea, which Babylon had profaned. And her doom is the doom of Babylon herself. Come on, brothers and sisters. This is not a coincidence. This interpretation, which is certainly ingenious and supported by a good deal of research into the details of the ship's cargo, is wrecked, as it seems to me, upon the great jutting rock represented in the fact that the downfall of Tyre is predicted by Ezekiel as coming at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. If Tyre is Babylon, it is surely strange that Babylon should deliberately set out to overthrow herself. The allegorical method of interpretation has always been alluring to Jewish minds, but it is full of dangers. Mr. Schroff's, I think that's the guy's name, Mr. Schroff's treatment of algam wood, apes, and peacocks would gain much by reference to articles that they have by Professor Walter E. Clark in the American Journal of Semitic Languages and Literatures, so forth and so forth. All right. So I definitely wanted to bring that to the table. Okay. Let me see, where are we here now? Let me move on now to, let's see where we at. Hey, is this? Let's now go to the video. All right. We're going to now go to the video that I wanted you guys to watch. So let us continue on with Revelation 17 and 3 by examining this short video. Okay, it's 8 minutes long, but I want you guys to pay very close attention to this video. There is a ton of information writing here in this video. All right, so this video is for educational purposes under the Fair Use Act. Again, this video is for educational purposes only under the Fair Use Act. So let's go ahead and get the video rocking and rolling.
But of course, for all the colour and noise, the characters, the invention, this was an industrial area. The black country, so-called because of all the black smoke thrown out by its factories, the furnaces that glowed red at night. There was a dark side to the Industrial Revolution, a darker side to the bull ring.
There was. Female chain makers of the Industrial Revolution were underpaid and overworked. And not only were they responsible for making some of the chains used in the slave trade, but they too were enslaved by their terrible circumstances.
And now, enter the bull.
As the beat pounds to remind us of the relentless drive of industry, they drag into the Alexander Stadium a beast, a bull, 10 meters high, heavily armored.
Now scarred by past hurt and enraged by injustice, the bull breaks free and causes pandemonium. And in a parallel act of emancipation, the women break their own chains.
Bulls were baited and sold here in the city centre for centuries, and his armoured mask features the names of the chain makers embossed upon it from those dark days.
So who now can calm the bull? Not Virginia Lemon, she's escaped in her balloon. It's no doubt going to be up to Stella and the Dreamers to try and halt the bull.
The Dreamers have stayed, and they're about to offer compassion to a very scared icon of this city. Certainly one of the most striking images of the show so far. It's a very How to Train Your Dragon moment. This is Stella offers friendship and compassion to tame the beast.
Now, don't go out and try this in a field, but in Stella's single action, we can see that we're all worthy of love, whoever we are, and whatever our circumstances may be.
Yes, behind it all, the idea of breaking free from oppression and enslavement and of moving forward together. Admirably lofty aims here in Birmingham this evening.
And so, freed from their bonds, the women and the bull leave the shackles of the past behind. Not surprised. But the bull, once calm, is now injured again.
Stella and our athlete Dreamers call for a moment of reflection and of light, as she and the bull call for a moment of reconciliation. All is stilled.
time for the shards to work their magic again. Stella and the Dreamers used them to call for a moment of reflection and reconciliation. Thought that was Jenny Lemon coming back.
In fact, it's the chain makers that we saw earlier, and they lift away the bull's armor, the symbol of his enslavement and theirs, and he will be revealed as an iconic symbol of light, just as the names of the women chain makers who fought for their rights and better working conditions in the early 1900s will be lit up around the track and on the main stage tower.
So together, along with Stella and the Dreamers, they will heal the hurt and they will lift away the bull's armor to reveal him as a symbol of light and love. The now free and at peace bull of Birmingham really is the symbol for this Commonwealth Games.
He will, by the way, have a permanent place in theatrical and inspiring open ceremony and these games.
Okay, Mr. Picard, I want to thank you for taking time again. That was an 8-minute video, almost 9 minutes. But I believe that there was a lot of important information that we could have gotten or that we should have gotten from that video. You have the ushering in of this bull by a Roman soldier. One. Now, that's going to be very important because we have to identify who that beast is. And also take notice now, the Bible describes this beast as a scarlet colored beast. And if you look at what the Jewish people are doing today, they're looking for a red heifer. A red heifer. Because they want to reintroduce now animal sacrificing and rebuilding the temple. Also take notice too now the calf, aka bull worshiping now, that Jeroboam was doing during the time of the split after Solomon's reign, where we have Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and where Jeroboam built these high places in Bethel and in Dan because he didn't want Northern Kingdom now to go to Jerusalem, which was the place where the Father placed his name at for worshiping. So he built these temples again in Bethel and in Dan, worshiping this golden calf. Coincidence? Or what about when Moses now is having this pani, this face-to-face conversation with the Father in regard to the 10 Commandments? He comes down now and see Israel now participating in this Babylonian worshiping of a golden calf. So think about it now. What is going on and what is the history behind this mysterious golden calf or this Aspis bull worshiping? Where did it come from? Where did it come from? We'll talk about that later, all right? But what I'm trying to do, once again, is bring as much information to the table as possible. Who is the woman riding the beast in Revelation, the 17th chapter? Now, this mystery question has been debated and argued for hundreds of years. It has come to my attention after my personal studies. The woman riding the beast has taken on many identities now based upon the time in history. Many have argued the woman is Jerusalem. Some have claimed it's America. I have even heard claim that the woman is the Roman Catholic Church. Now watch this. Is it possible that all three can be correct based upon the era and time in history? Let me quickly share my response. The answer is emphatically yes, without a doubt. This beast, of this woman that is riding the beast, it could be looked at as Jerusalem, America, the Roman Catholic Church, based upon the era and the time that we're living in. Because remember, the Father did make a covenant with the nation of Israel. And this covenant now was a blood covenant. Meaning now is that the blood was sprinkled upon the book and the people. It was blood ratified. There was a marriage that took place at Mount Sinai, and Israel is the adulterous woman. But this is the question, the $100,000 question. What is going on today? What is happening? How are we reading the book of Daniel when it talks about now this Babylonian spirit that is moving? It's not stationary, it's moving. This Babylonian system, once again, this Babylonian system is moving from Babylon to the Medo-Persian Empire, through the Greeks, through the Romans, even to this day, that Babylonian spirit is in effect. So again, let me quickly share my response. The answer is emphatically yes, with a quick explanation. The woman is Babylon. Babylon is a geopolitical system masquerading in sheep's clothing under the umbrella called religion. Meaning now is that this geopolitical system is masquerading under Christianity. Christianity, which was implemented by Constantine in 325 AD. And we know that Constantine wasn't a follower of Christianity, but it was actually Mithraism. Mithra. With that understanding, when we see what's happening today in the churches, that is religion. Religion keeps a person docile, keeps a person in this fantasy world. Religion makes people stupid, dumb. Religion makes people or put people in a mindset where you leave your brains at the door. But politics doesn't operate that way. It's masquerading as religion. So what we do, or some of us do now, is that we practice religion, where you go up to churches on Sundays and you do backflips, you twerk, you do head spins, and you do all of this weird stuff. That's religion. That's not what the chief or the commander-in-chief does. That's not what the judicial system does. That's not what the legislative branch does. That's not what the executive branch does. This is politics. Give the people religion and let them keep wishing and hoping. Now, Babylon, or Babel, the gateway to God, later known as Babylon, which means confusion. Religion is confusion. We, as Hebrew Israelites, we don't follow religion. We're into laws, statutes, and commandments, which keeps us in relationship with the Father. I don't care how you twist it. I don't care what Greek dictionary, Webster's dictionary, Oxford dictionary that you go into. We don't do religion. We do Torah. The word Babel means the gateway to God, later known as Babylon, which means confusion or to confound. And also take note now, when we look at the Hebrew gematria for the word Babylon, we get the word Shishak. And that's very important because this is idol worshiping. My point in case is Jeremiah, the 25th chapter, verse 26. Let me pull that up right quick, all right? Mr. McCarr, give me about 20 minutes and we're done. Jeremiah 25:26. And please hit that like button. Or if you disagree, hit the disagree button and leave a comment so I can try and address your disagreement. And in the next class that I do, we'll try to make some clarity or get some clarity out of this. Jeremiah 25:26. And all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world, which are upon the face of the earth, and the king of Shishak shall drink after them. Now, let's see what is Shishak. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. I want to just get you the Strong's number. Let me get you the Strong's number. So when you do your own personal research off of what I'm saying, let's see whether or not the information that I'm sharing with you tonight is correct. Let's see if it's correct. Shishak is the Strong's number 8347. And let's see what it gives. When you look at the Hebrew word study, transliteration, pronunciation, etymology, and grammar of the word, definition number 1, Shishak, another name for Babylon. Apparently taken from the goddess Sha'ak. When you look at the Brown Drivers Briggs Old Testament Hebrew English lexicon, of a foreign derivation, Shishak, a symbolic name of Babylon. Babylon. This whole system is Babylon. Even Peter, in 1 Peter 5:13, he said, to the church that is in Babylon. That's what he said. He said to the church that is in Babylon, but during the time of Peter's ministry, the ruling body at that time was Rome. The fourth metal, the fourth beast. Peter called Rome Babylon. Jeremiah 51:41. We're almost done. Jeremiah 51:41. Let me just pull it up right quick. I have it here. How is Shishak taken? Sounds familiar? Revelation, the 18th chapter, verses 10 to 19. Read it yourself for time's sake here, all right? Jeremiah 51:41 ties in with Revelation, the 18th chapter, verses 10 to 19. How is Shishak taken? And how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How is Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? Why do we have here in the book of Jeremiah 51:41, we have Shishak being compared to, or Babylon being compared to Shishak? Let me read just a couple more verses in regards to Shishak, Babylon. The sea has come up upon Babylon. She is covered with the multitude of waves thereof. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and a wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth, neither doeth any son of man pass thereby. And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which she or he has swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yes, the walls of Babylon shall fall. My people, go you out of the midst of her, which is Shishak, which is Babylon, which is Tyre, which is Rome, and America is an extension of Rome. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver every man his soul from the fierce anger of the sovereign. Compare that once again to Revelation, the 18th chapter, verses 10 to 19. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. Now, there was something I wanted to, okay, I'll move on. I'll talk about the rest of that a little bit later. Okay, I want to make sure we end this in 10 minutes. Now, Mishpachah, we only have 3 more slides. This particular book here, I would strongly suggest you get. There's a lot of information in this book I find very educational. Once again, I believe that it would help us in getting a better explanation on what's going on in the book of Revelation. It's called The Word Biblical Commentary, Revelation 17 to 22, by David E. Oni or On. And there's a complete section on this. I just got Revelation 17 chapter verses 22, and I'll pick up the other books a little bit later, but I believe that this would be a very good book to add to your repertoire here. The other book that is very good in helping us to understand what is going on in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, is The Two Babylons, or the Papal Worship, proved to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife by Reverend Alexander Hislop. All right, Hislop. And I had this book since, back in the 90s. All right. So there's a wealth of information that's in this book here that also supports this book right here called The Word Biblical Commentary by David E. On. And the last one I want to read, Mishpachah, is this passage here. All right. I want to read this here. I'm going to be real quick with it, and I'll expound on it a little bit later on or the next time I come up. This woman that is riding the beast, all right, this woman that is riding beast, the woman that you see to the far right is Dea Roma. It's a Dea Roma coin. An important key for understanding the statistic character of the vision of the whore and the beast of Revelation 17th chapter may lie in a coin minted in 71 AD. In the Roman province of Asia during the reign of Vespasian, who ran from 69 to 79 AD. Now, when you read the book of Revelation, the first chapter, it talks about the 7 churches that was in Asia Minor. Now, Asia Minor is very important in the book of Revelation, but this deity named Dea Roma was the goddess that was being worshipped in Asia Minor. This deity. And then to the far left, we have the emperor or the Caesar Vespasian. So let me just read down here a little bit, and then I'll end it in about 5 minutes. A number of scholars have independently recognized a connection between the description in Revelation 17 and 9, we'll get there at another time, of the whore seated on 7 mountains and a particular Cesterus, and the woman that sits on the 7 mountains or the 7 hills of Rome is the Palatine Hill, the Aventine Hill, Capitolian Hill, the Caelian Hill, Esquiline Hill, Quirinial Hill, Viminal Hill. Also, pay very close attention now, because there's some arguments about this now, but there is some validity to this. Meaning now is that Washington, D.C. also sits on 7 hills, as Rome sits on 7 hills. Now, those 7 hills are Capitol Hill. Notice now, during the time of Rome, during the 1st century, there was a Capitolian Hill, and in Washington, D.C. today, we have a Capitol Hill, where bills and laws are being passed and things like that. Remember the old commercial back in the day with electric company, I'm just a bill, sitting on Capitol Hill. So we do see the word Capitol Hill and Washington, D.C. sitting on Capitol Hill, Meridian Hill, Floral Hills, Forest Hill, Hillbrook Hill, Hillcrest, and Knox Hill. Coincidence? Some say it is. I don't believe that it is. So we have Rome sitting on 7 mountains, 7 hills. We have DC, and there's some arguments about it, that also sits on 7 hills. Let me read on. Where we at here now? The obverse depicts a realistic portrait of the emperor with the inscription Imp Caesar Vespasian, AVG PM TP PPCOS, the third, standard abbreviation for Emperor Caesar Vespasian Augustus Pontifex Maximus, which means greatest priest. Okay? Caesar Vespasian, or Emperor Caesar Vespasian Pontiff Maximus, means greatest priest, head of the College of Pontiffs. And there's a lot of information here, but Mr. McCall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there. All right. I'm going to stop it there. I want to thank you for your time and your participation. All right. Participation here tonight, because I did share a lot of information with you. I don't really like going over an hour and a half. It's kind of like tops. But once again, I thank you for your time and your support. And we're going to pick this up again. Maybe this week the end of this week, and if not the end of this week, pray for it be the Father's will next week. So, Mr. Bakar, we're going to end tonight's lesson. Once again, I thank you for inviting me into your homes. And once again, if you get the chance, check out Men Going God's Way. A very good brother. Once again, his name is Elder Gabar, and his other brother that studies along with him, Brother Ricky. Check out their YouTube video. And with that, my sister Sharon, I thank you for taking time and hanging out the whole duration. I really appreciate you. I mean, so much. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, Mr. Bakar, I'm going to say shalom, shalom. Have a great night.